Hello, everyone, and welcome to the review of our professional training courses and certificate programs in the human dimensions of organizations. Um, I am Mary Rose, and for the last year or so, have had the pleasure of being director of HDO. I'm going to say a little bit about the program, and then we'll review the agenda, and I'm going to introduce our excellent co-host today, which is Art Markman, the founding director of our program, and Andrew, who is he is listed as extended campus, but we'll get to a proper introduction soon. The Human Dimensions of Organization is a program that is in its 11th year. Now we just graduated our 10th class, and that's through the master's program, which was the first program that the first kind of credential that our program developed, an executive ed style 15-month master's program. And that's ongoing, and we're here to answer questions about anything. But our focus today is the fact that that also gave rise to programs that are designed to be taken just in a day, but reflect the spirit and ideas of the human dimensions of organizations, which we'll say more about. But basically, the human part is the one that we emphasize, and privilege, because we are connected with the College of Liberal Arts, we bring an assessment of how people are in the context of organizations. So to give you an overview of what we'll do today, we will talk about what is a human dimensions of organizations education. We're going to talk specifically about the professional training program and what it offers. And through that to kind of look at the themes of our programs and the courses. Particularly if you're here today, I hope you're asking, is this right for me? And we want to cover that a little bit about what kinds of folks might be interested in the day-long trainings that we offer, as well as anything that we might customize for your particular issues, and thinking in terms of benefits and takeaways. And then we want to leave plenty of time for questions, anything that we might explore. And before we do that, just making sure everybody's clear. So I will introduce myself. I'm a professor in the sociology department, as well as the director. I've been at UT since 2002, and I've been teaching in the Human Dimensions of Organizations program since about 2016. Joining us today is Art Markman, the founding director of HDO. So he really helped launch this, and that's why he's going to be doing a lot of the talking, since he knows lots about why we do things the way we do and what has made us successful. He is kept on administrating since running HDO. He is now vice provost, which is in the academic office of the university. He's vice provost for academic affairs at UT Austin. That means really and truly he knows pretty much everything about all the curricular and academic issues here at UT. In addition to having been our founding director, he is among one of our top-rated faculty in terms of teaching. He is has a chair, which in academia means that you've earned this. He is the Annabelle, is it Arian Worship Centennial Professor, and he holds appointments in, not only is he affiliated faculty here with HDO, but he is in the Department of Psychology and Marketing. In addition, we are joined today by Andrew Vasquez, who is the Enrollment and Success Coordinator. What he does is exactly what his title suggests, which is he knows all things about getting folks enrolled in particularly these professional training programs, but also how to make sure people are getting out of the program what they would like. Andrew, do you want to say a quick hello?
Greetings, everyone. On behalf of HDO, on behalf of UT, thank you so very much for joining us today. In essence, what I do is I recruit, and after I officially get you in the program, after I make sure that you're clear about what your journey here at HDO is going to entail, I'm with you every step of the way. So I make sure that I act as your academic advisor. I have various touch points with you throughout the program. And once you're done, I very much look forward to awarding you your UT Gold Seal Certificate. So I very much look forward to communicating with each of you about what the future holds in store. Thank you.
And the very important supportive task that Andrew is doing today is going to be managing our chat and making sure that your questions get answered, because your mic access is not available. Then as questions arise, absolutely put them in the chat. But so that Art and I are not distracted, Andrew's going to oversee that and make sure that we have those questions at the end. All right, with that, I am going to turn it over to Art to talk about what an human dimensions of organizations education looks like. I'll be jumping in as to comment here and there, but in general, take it away, Art.
Thanks so much, Mary, and welcome everybody. We're really glad to have you here today to find out a little bit more about the HDO program, which, as Mary mentioned, is something that's very near and dear to my heart. It is a program that we launched. We started the planning process back in 2011, and the master's program started in 2013. We added these professional training courses soon after that, and for those of you who've been following the HDO journey, we also have an undergraduate major and approximately 550 undergraduates who walk around campus calling themselves HDO majors, which is a wonderful thing to see. The aim of the HDO program is to help you to become a people expert. So when you wake up in the morning and realize that the biggest problems that you face in your work life are people-centered problems, we're the place to come to learn how to solve those problems. So the organization you might work for could be in almost any sector, because it turns out there are people problems almost anywhere. So we love to say that we serve people from business, government, nonprofits, and the military, and often both in our master's program and in our professional training courses, all four of those sectors are represented in the folks who come to participate. The idea behind this program is that locked within all of the disciplines that we find in a College of Liberal Arts, which spans the humanities, the social sciences, and the behavioral sciences, is a tremendous amount of knowledge and wisdom about people. That knowledge and wisdom comes from a variety of sources. So when you study history, you are studying the variety of forces that have influenced the way that people make decisions in critical situations, and to understand the outcomes of very high stakes negotiations. When you study literature, you are immersing yourself in the motivations of humans that are in circumstances different from your own, which allows you to project yourself into those situations and to see things in a fundamentally different way, and to understand how that context influences what people are doing. When you study philosophy, you are taking a look at core concepts around critical things like ethics and unpacking those concepts to understand exactly what they mean and why they influence the way that people act the way they do. When we moved from the humanities to the social sciences, Mary is a sociologist, and she can do a great job of describing in more detail the ways that sociologists look at a variety of social structures and understand how those influence not just group behavior, but also how they end up affecting individuals. Anthropologists are taking that and actually magnifying that to the level of culture, to try to understand what a culture is, how it affects people, and to even answer questions like, when we talk about organizations having cultures, do they really have cultures? Is that just a metaphor? And of course, my own field of psychology looks at individual and small group behavior to understand things like, what is it that affects our ability to change? The course that I teach in our professional training courses, for example, I teach a course on behavior change and influence, recognizing that changing behavior is a difficult thing for us to do as individuals, and yet it becomes even more difficult when the behavior you're trying to change is someone else's. Now, what's nice about all of the programs that we offer across this range of disciplines is that we are going to give you a mix of an understanding of the discipline itself, as well as real practical applications that you can bring to your workplace the following day. If you've ever seen the logo for the Human Dimensions of Organizations program, it is the letters HDO with a little orange loop in it. And that loop is not just a beautiful design element. It actually has meaning that we baked into the logo from the very beginning. What it represents is that for those of us who practice these disciplines as scholars, there is content in those disciplines, things we've learned from them. So, for example, as a psychologist, I know some things about the way people make decisions. There's methodology. That methodology involves the studies that we do in order to determine what it is that we know about the way people make decisions. And then, to the extent that I want to take that knowledge and use it to put it into practice, I then have to figure out, how do I translate that knowledge and that methodology to practical situations? And what we find is that as soon as you begin to put that knowledge into practice, it sends you back to explore the content of that discipline, maybe even to engage with the methodology to learn new things in order to answer the next generation of questions. And that loop of content and methodology and practice back to the content and methodology, we baked that little loop into the logo itself as a reminder that what we're doing is really trying to teach you about these disciplines, but not in an abstract way, really in a very specific way that helps you to then apply that to the work that you do. And the beauty of what we teach is that this isn't trendy. We are teaching you fundamental things about the human condition that many of which have been true for centuries, will continue to be true for centuries. And so you don't have to worry about this knowledge going out of date very quickly, because it's really going to stay with you. And by the way, Mary, feel free to dive in at any moment on this.
Well, you said it so well, and just maybe to, to give an example, I went and met with an organization yesterday. I traveled to them to present on teams and working in groups. And the aim was to talk about, when are groups helpful for people in their work life, and when are they not? Because, it's kind of default to go to a team structure in an organization, to have groups of people, because the assumption is groups will help. And so we had a really fun conversation about when they do and when they don't help, and Art knows very well that brainstorming is not one of those activities you want to do in a group. It's better to do on your own and come back to us. We talked about things like that. And we talked about issues of inequality in groups, and when people talk more. And just to emphasize what Art was saying, my knowledge in this comes from studying juries. That's my area of expertise. Not a workplace organization, but an organization that's important and brings so much to the conversation. But it's that timelessness. I can draw insights that we've learned about small group behavior and about jury decision making, but it has applicability to things that people are living and working. And so it was very fun for me to have a conversation with a bunch of people in a IT department about working in groups. It was really fun.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. And Mary's been really helpful to me over the years of this sort of thing. When I actually taught the intro course to the undergraduate major, and incorporated some of the readings related to the work on juries into the introductory course when I was teaching it. So it's made its way throughout our curriculum. So the focus today is, as Mary said in the introduction, is on our professional training programs. And if you think about the offerings that we have, our master's degree program is an absolutely amazing program, but it's also a 15-month program that is a major life commitment for the people who are part of it. And it is a life-changing commitment, but it's a significant one. And so we also want to make sure that the HDO experience is available in smaller offerings, and that's where our professional training comes in. So what we have are one-day classes where you can come to campus, and so these are taught in person. The individual courses are a day long, and you come to campus. You are taught by some of our greatest faculty on campus. We have been lucky enough to really engage excellent faculty from across the university, largely in our College of Liberal Arts, but some folks who have liberal arts leanings but happen to be appointed in other places at the university. And you are able to take individual courses if you choose, but we also bundle some of these courses together into certificates. And so we have certificate programs that you can check out on the website, including programs on change management and strategic leadership. And you can see the others listed on the screen here. Those involve a sequence of four one-day classes that you can take over a period of 18 months. And so you can come to campus several times and meet with our faculty, meet several other students with common interests, and then at the end of that get a certificate program. And these courses are offered. The price for the individual courses is $1,000, but we encourage you to consider a certificate. And if you do sign up for the full certificate, then we do give a bit of a price break that drops to $3,000 when you sign up for the certificate. And also, please do check the website, because depending on what sector you work in and things like that, there may be additional discounts. And as another advertisement for our master's program, for those students who engage in the master's program, we also give you that opportunity to come back and take programs with us for the rest of your life. We want you back, and so that's an additional perk of being in the master's program, is that you can continue coming back, and we do often get a master's student who's in one of our professional training programs. So yeah, and I've been teaching in these professional training programs for years. I have as much fun, I think, as anybody else does. They're very interactive. There's a lot of discussion. You get to meet people often from very different sectors of the market. So you will get people from business, government, nonprofits, and the military all in one class. And what's really fascinating is initially you're thinking, why do we have somebody from this sector in this class? And very quickly you realize, oh, they are actually struggling with exactly the same problem that I am, and often approach it very differently, so that you get insight into that problem, not just from our wonderful faculty, but actually from some of your fellow learners in the class.
Yeah, and the one thing I would add is how much I love that HDO learns, practices what it preaches and learns by doing. And one of the things it recognized is how you know better than some of us about the areas that you most would like to see your skills developed. And so that's why we stopped sort of saying, here's a track you have to do, and you have to do it in 4 days, and that's how you get your certificate. We really opened it up, listening to people about their needs, so that there's sort of this create your own certificate. And it isn't, it still draws from the same courses that feed into these other areas, but it's possible that something you need would be a combination of 2 courses over here, 1 course here and 1 course here. And so that's why we added in this create your own thing. It doesn't change anything about the quality or the what the important things we want you to take away. It's simply introducing flexibility. And then the second thing is, we deliberately do make these in person. I mean, we did have an online presence during the pandemic, like everybody did, but there is a hunger for in-person learning. We try to make it as convenient as possible. There's great parking here and those kinds of things. But it is designed for you to kind of spend a day thinking about something just as Art said, in the company of a really, great wide range of people with the same interests. And we have found that that's more of a recipe for success, rather than having kind of on-demand learning or something where you're not interacting with the professor or the students. And that, we feel like this has support pedagogically. And however, because it's in person, it's demanding. That's part of the other aim for us, to be flexible with you. So it isn't just like, take a whole week off of work and come here. You can do it over the course of these 18 months in 1 day.
So if you want to think a little bit about what are some of the programs that we offer, one of the things you can do, I mean, I'll talk specifically about some of these courses, but one way to think about this is, if you think about the classes of programs or the classes of problems that you struggle with on a daily basis, part of what we've done is to look for those problems and then to look for faculty who have expertise on them. So, for example, we have a number of different approaches to thinking about change management. some of which are focused, for example, the course that I teach is focused on the behavioral science of this, but we also have programs that are focused a little bit more on understanding people's motivations, which is also really crucial for understanding change, that take much more of a literary approach to thinking about these kinds of issues. Strategic leadership is again an issue that comes up time and again. And you can think about strategic leadership from lots of different perspectives, including a historical perspective. And so, we want to bring those different approaches to our program. Communication is one that's a natural. And of course, the liberal arts is chock full of disciplines, including rhetoric, that are for which communication is really central to what we do. I want to give special attention to this idea of ethics and ethical decision making. I talk a lot. I mean, my course is called Behavior Change and Influence, and one of the things that I talk about in my class is that we're going to teach you to influence people, and the tools of influence are ethically neutral, right? You can choose to influence people to do good things or bad, which means that you want to create a good, firm, ethical foundation for the work that you do, right? And so really, we try to build an understanding into ethics, into the work that we do, and to provide courses that actually give you a way of thinking about what are the ethical principles that you and your organization should adopt when you're making important decisions. Problem solving and innovation. We hear the word innovation all over the place, but in fact, it is by no means clear how you can be creative without learning something about the way that minds work and the way that groups work. And so I do another class called Maximizing Mental Agility that really talks about the roots of creativity at that individual level. I teach this, but as Mary was pointing out, she does as well, teach about how group dynamics influence creativity. And it really is the case that if you learn nothing else today, that if you get a whole bunch of people together and you have them throw ideas around in a traditional brainstorming setting, you're gonna have a great time. Actually, it turns out it's a lot of fun to do that. But the research is also pretty clear that you get what's called productivity loss from brainstorming. Because your group, as much fun as it had, will actually come up with fewer ideas and fewer good ideas than they would have come up with had they worked alone. So learning a little bit of this behavioral science and social science actually goes a long way towards improving your processes around creativity and innovation and teamwork and collaboration. And we want to point out that while we do offer most of our courses in a way that is focused broadly on every type of organization, we do also offer some of our programs specifically tailored to thinking about what goes on in the nonprofit sector and in the government sector, because those are, there are some unique things that happen when you are working in a government agency rather or an NGO or a nonprofit than you are than when you're working in the corporate sector. So I think the common theme to all this is that we want you to be people experts, and we want you to understand people at the level of individuals, groups, and cultures.
Yeah, I think there's been a sense that the liberal arts maybe are impractical, and we take a very different view, which is their core to understanding problems, and their core to a like 21st century workplace ready person. And but it does take guidance. You don't just read Plato and then know exactly how that's going to help you the next day at your team meeting. It takes having someone who has thought about these issues, read widely about these issues, to come in and talk with you about what the implications of this are, what this means, how literature might and familiarity and fluency with literature might shape thinking. And so we celebrate the fact that that having all these eyes on something is the way to go, and that it is the way to help you, as it said, use people effectively, both as individuals and, as Art says, in groups and in certain contexts, to understand what is helping an organization be a success or a failure.
And I want to address, I see in the chat there was a question from Joseph on the human dimensions of AI. And one of the things I want to point out is that, one of the reasons that the humanities, the social sciences, the behavioral sciences, the liberal arts are so important is because technological changes will often change the specific day-to-day tasks that you need to do at work. But what doesn't change is that you're still in an organization that is trying to organize the way that people function. And AI, despite all the hype, is really just a tool. It's a tool that can provide some interesting text, some interesting images to you. But AI has its biases in it based on the training set that it was given. And it is going to, the rapid technological changes that AI has created are going to make an understanding of the people and organizations all the more important, because we are going to have to adapt to the technological changes and understand the influence that those are going to have on the dynamics of an organization. And those are the kinds of things that we teach regularly. Right. So it's less that we are focused on here's a particular technology and the influence this is going to have, but rather, here's what happens when organizations confront change, a change that could be driven by a new technology. And here's how to manage that. Here's how to manage the people through that. And here's how to ensure that you come out stronger on the other end of it.
What do you think, Art? Who's this for?
Who is this for? So what I say to people all the time is, if you wake up one day and think, gosh, the biggest problem I face is a spreadsheet, I need to know how the money works in my organization, we're not your program. But if you wake up one day and you realize, you know what, day in and day out, what I struggle with is people. Those people could be myself. How do I make myself as productive as possible? It could be, how do I communicate effectively with other people? How do I help people to do what I want them to do? How do I understand what other people want? One of the things that happens if you're an aspiring leader in an organization, if you think about that leadership journey, you start as a great individual contributor. And then if you're going to get promoted, the next thing you have to do is to learn how to help other people to be the kind of individual contributor you were, which means influencing their behavior and teaching them. And that's a people problem, and we do teach some of that. Now, the next level problem, after you become successful at helping other people to do the job you did well, is that now you actually have to think about how the work that you did fit into a broader system. You have to now understand other people's goals in a much deeper way. And so now that understanding of how the variety of goals that the stakeholders in your organization have and how those fit together, that becomes your focus. And how do you communicate in ways that don't just communicate the concept that you have clearly, but communicate it in a way that the person who you're telling it to is ready to hear it. And so those kinds of skills, they're difficult to do, but they are teachable. And those are all things that we try to engage in. And so if you are the sort of person who is facing people problems or aspires to be a people problem solver, then we're the kind of program for you. And this comes in lots of places, particularly one of the groups that often benefits quite a bit from our programs are folks who started out in a technical discipline. So they might be in engineering, they might be in a medical field, they might be a coder, and now they find themselves managing people, and the people don't act like the devices and the other technical things do. And so this now becomes a valuable addition to the education, because it allows you to take on that next role. And these people problems become ever more important the higher you go in organizations. I'll tell a quick story. When the very first year that we had the HDO undergraduate program, one of the first year students who was taking the intro course with me, he came up to me early on in the semester, and he said, "I just want you to know," he said, "I interned for the president of a sports franchise over the summer, and I was trying to decide whether to come to the University of Texas to do the HDO program or to go to UCLA and do the sports management program. And apparently the person he was interning with said, well, if you want to get a job in the sports industry quickly, go to UCLA. If you want my job someday, go do HDO at the University of Texas.
And the only thing I want to add is, as you can see by this slide, although we do think that, the senior leaders and executives, probably face some of these challenges and are on have the pressure points to solve these challenges, we really do see it as across the level of organizations, and it really is that first bullet point to emphasize. I think back on when people have shared with me why they've exited a job, and it rarely is something about a spreadsheet. It could, of course, there are the times when there's something that, a market collapses or, something with respect to a product goes awry. But in the main, when people talk about why they're leaving a position, it's because they don't feel heard, or they feel like their contributions aren't being valued, or they feel that it isn't growing, or that management is letting problems fester among teams. And, some of that is the leadership should, work on that. But some of it is taking charge by knowing a little bit more about these areas yourself, knowing how to recognize workplaces that seem to respect people and have that commitment that we encourage organizations to adopt, is to be very people-centered. So it is obviously it's not free, but it is open to people at kind of any level that want to grow in their job and grow in what makes them happy and flourishing in their work.
Yeah. And see another question in the chat from Joseph. So thanks for the question. And the question is essentially what are some of some additional examples of core skills that we teach. And I want to start by actually talking about the approach we take. So what we're doing is not teaching a kind of framework that tries to help you to be to have a particular role, like a framework to be a leader, but rather what we're trying to do is to teach you core elements of the way people function, using the concepts that emerge from a discipline, and then use that in a generative way to be able to use that to solve problems that go beyond the ones that we may have thought of when designing a class. So for example, when I teach my behavior change and influence class, what we do is we start by talking about the structure of the human motivational system. That is, what is it that drives people to act? And why is it that the things that drive people to act tend to drive them back towards the things that they've done in the past? And by understanding the way that the motivational system works with just, something that can be taught in just a couple of hours, that those principles can then be used to better understand how to structure work environments that lead to actual change among the people that you work with, by managing the environment that they're in, by creating engagements with other people that promote changes in behavior rather than inhibit those changes in behavior, how reframing goals by focusing on actions that people take rather than actions that you don't want them to take can have a profound influence on their likelihood of success. The idea here is that these ideas are rooted not in, hey, do it this way rather than that way, but really, here's how people work. And when you understand how people work, you can then tailor the changes that you're making specifically to the specific environment you're in, recognizing that you're learning something about people. And similarly, when we have people who are rooting their work, say in a study of history, what they're doing is extracting from the work in history some important causal principles about the way that different kinds of work settings function, and then allowing you to use those deeper principles as a way of then generating how it is that you would engage when negotiating, for example. So we have a wonderful course on negotiation that is taught jointly by one of our government professors and a practitioner in negotiation. And the idea there is that there is something fundamental to be understood about the way that people engage in negotiations in the public sphere, but that causal understanding that emerges from that work then can be put into practice. And so what you're given is I believe a much deeper foundation for solving problems. Well, we don't want you to have to keep coming back here to learn the same thing over and over again. What we want you to do is to have a deeper understanding of the way things work so that you can continue to mine that understanding for a real for solutions to the next generation of problems that you see.
Yeah, I think we live in a world in which there's this idea of the one crazy trick. Like if
Yeah.
you just are able to click on the right website or watch the right TED Talk or whatever it is, that you'll learn the one crazy trick that you've been missing. And we couldn't be further from that. And, it's exactly what Art says. Like, it's better not to have the one crazy trick. It's better to have the core truth. And there may be, particular things that you have to, address in your particular context, but having a sense of what people for millennia have recognized about people is what we're about. And these are the things that we're hoping you'll take. So.
Yeah. So right. So it's a great segue because what we really want you to do is to take all of that great learning that you've done prior to coming to our programs, which has enabled you to be successful up to the point that you've come. And if you think about what you've learned to do, in particularly, those of you who have technical expertise, for example, have learned a lot of technical principles for being successful in solving those kinds of problems. We want to do the same thing. We want you to have that rich base of understanding of the way that people work. And I think, one way perhaps to think about this is a lot of times people feel a bit like traveling to a foreign country. They do things and it's just not obvious to you why they're doing that. And it's not obvious, whenever you watch somebody do something, for example, it's immediately ambiguous whether they did that thing because that's who they are as a person, or because the situation that they're in drove them to do that. And another little nugget here. There's an old finding from psychology called the fundamental attribution error. And what it shows us is that when we're describing somebody else's behavior, we tend to focus on assuming that they did something because of it's who they are deep down. But when we're describing our own behavior, we tend to describe it in terms of the situation that we're in. So we tend to think, no, I'm not that kind of person, but the situation drove me to do this. And the reason it's called an error is because chances are in both situations, it was a little of each, but we overemphasize the trait elements of it when talking about somebody else, and overemphasize the situational elements when it's us. And by understanding that both the situation and people's traits and what those traits are affect their behavior, you actually become better at diagnosing what's going on when you engage with other people. And so the idea here is we want you to understand what's going on beneath the surface from the perspective of all of our disciplines, and then to be able to use that as the core of your engagement with other people, whether you're in a leadership role or whether you're just trying to influence the group that you're working with, or whether you're just trying to be better at generating new ideas. The more of these principles that you understand and have internalized, the better able you are to adapt to whatever the new circumstance is. And the beauty of this is you get to learn this in a setting in which you are hanging out with a whole bunch of other people who've also come to this class because they have similar interests. One of the really fun aspects of this is watching all the people who've come to a particular class get to know each other and to develop alliances with people who may come from very different market sectors. And of course, you get to do this with amazing University of Texas faculty. And we do have some partnerships in some of our courses with industry experts and practitioners. But unlike many programs, we're not going to bring somebody in from the outside and then who doesn't really have an affiliation with the university and slap their name on something and tell you you're getting a UT education. What we do is when we have an industry expert that we think has something to offer, they're partnered up with a member of our faculty. And so you are actually getting this great combination of industry expertise, but merged with the kind of faculty understanding that we can bring from our experts. And I think, you know, what the one thing that I really enjoy about teaching in the HDO program is no matter what course it is, at the end of the day, there's more energy in the room than there was when the day started. And that's no mean feat when you realize you've just been in a classroom for 6 hours with people, because there is a lot of engagement, there's a lot of activity, and there's just a buzz around the classes. And I think it's one of the reasons that people tend to come back. Having done one class, they tend to come back for more.
These are our offerings that are coming up, and then give you, and in answer to Joe's question, these are some specifics that we're looking towards, which is organizational leadership and strategy in focusing on in situations of uncertainty, emotional intelligence, which is kind of a buzzword, but we have people who bring a more critical eye and help you have a more critical eye and understanding of what that exactly means. It may not just be whatever one book says, it's a broader idea. Persuasion and persuading like an entrepreneur, changeophobia, and then as Art pointed out, so much more on the website. We hope you will investigate. Art, anything you want to add on this?
Just I see that Joseph had a question about the days of the week that classes are offered, and the answer is we have them at lots of days a week. The last program I did was actually on a Friday. So, you know, we do our best to try to spread them out throughout weeks so that we can accommodate different schedules for precisely the reason that different workplaces have different schedules, and we don't want people to miss out on the opportunity to come here just because of their particular work schedule.
Yeah, we have a preference, as you'll see from the dates, for the Thursday, Friday, because it's often easier for people to take those days, or they're, you know, working remotely anyway that day, or those kinds of things. So we have leaned into that, but just as Art is saying, we try to mix it up as much as possible. All righty, what do we still need to cover?
So I see another one from Joseph. Joseph, start times are typically 9 a.m. We do have breakfast starting at 8:30 a.m. traditionally. And as we get closer to each of those start dates for the course, you're going to be receiving a lot of communication from me with all of those details.
Anything else people want to know from us? And it, as we said, it goes through the chat, just the way the webinar works. So
if there are no questions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and post my contact information here within the chat itself. So
this also, just while you're doing that, lets you know we have these other offerings that we've already referenced, which is we can make a program customized to your workplace, and then the MA program is kind of where we started, which is the big version of this.
Yeah, and you know, often people are intrigued by the master's program, but also a little daunted by it. It is significant commitment. And so coming in and taking a seminar or two and getting a feel for how we do things is often a great way to dip your toe.
Yeah,
into that.
absolutely.
So custom trainings and group trainings. Yeah, with a state agency, fantastic. So our extended campus custom training team handles engagements with any organization. So it could be business or it could be a government agency, it could be a nonprofit. We do work with a lot of state agencies. In fact, in the state of Texas, a lot of state agencies like to work with us because they can actually book the program using an interagency transfer rather than having to actually go through a contract. So it makes things a little bit easier to do. Lilia Spinazzola heads that group, the Extended Campus Custom Training Team, and she is masterful at working with you to understand what your needs are and to then help to construct a program that has the right length, the right level for the people in the organization, and we will customize that so it doesn't. You can obviously book a kind of off the shelf, hey, we would like this seminar but brought to our organization. But we can also do a mix of things. We can create several half-day sessions out of some of the things that we do if that's what's needed, or even take something that is in the ballpark of what we're already teaching and work with some of our faculty experts to adapt that to a specific issue that your agency needs. So yeah, so reach out to us, and we'll get you in contact with the Extended Campus Custom Training Team, and they can work with you on that.
And the website information is here, but as Andrew suggested, he is an excellent hub. So since he put the his contact information, and even if that's not in his particular lane, he knows exactly where to direct you and how to get you connected up.
Joseph, you asked an interesting question. It is absolutely possible to go ahead and book me for a one-on-one advising session and/or consultation if you'd like to go ahead and discuss making your desire to take part in this a reality. What I'm going to do, Joseph, is for you and all of our other attendees today, I'm actually going to post here in the chat my bookings tool. So if you'd like, and the hyperlink's not working, no worries. Joseph, in the coming days, tomorrow, Friday, I'm actually going to follow up with you via phone call and email. I'm going to give you additional information on how we can set that up. So absolutely, that goes for all of you here in attendance today. If you want more information, if you want to set up a one-on-one video call, one-on-one phone call, we can absolutely make that happen.
I'm in touch as well. If there are any questions, big picture questions, if I don't know it, I know who to go to. And I do lean a lot on Andrew here, but follow us on social media or our website. I hope this session has given you a sense that we're really excited about what we're offering. We're not the biggest player in town by any stretch, but we really like this, and it helps all of us as scholars to be engaged with people grappling with real problems. It's a feedback loop for us. And so this isn't a chore. It isn't anything like we're teaching it exactly the same way we did every year. It really has that dynamism of taking things that everybody who teaches in this program really cares about and trying to connect you and your needs with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will add to that one of the wonderful things about this kind of teaching is that we know that your plan is to use this when you return to the office the next day. And so, our aim is to focus on is to teach you those principles, but then really work through in the course of the class, how could this be used? And we also recognize that it's as much fun as it is to teach undergraduates, which all of our great faculty have been doing for years. Undergraduates don't know anything, so they accept far more of what we say at face value. And one of the beauties of working with people who've been out in the workplace for a long time is that they have finely honed detectors for information that's not going to translate well to the workplace, and so we love that, because what it does is to really force us to ensure that the things that we're talking to you about are going to be relevant, are time tested, are going to be effective, and it keeps us on our toes. And I would say that every single person who teaches in HDO walks away from that realizing that they now look at their own discipline in a very different way than they did before they taught for this program.
Agreed. Anything else we can answer for people? Again, I'm trying to keep one eye on the clock, so I just want to make sure people have an opportunity while we're here. Okay. I think we've persuaded you that we're reachable. If there's anything else, we are here and we want to answer your questions. So even if something has not occurred to you now, we are more than pleased to talk to you about it. Andrew, anything else you want to let them know?
Not at all. You all said it perfectly. Well, the only thing I'll add is that, again, we appreciate your time. I know that
Yeah.
for a lot of you, this was your lunch hour. So we
Thank
recognize the commitment, the discipline, the sacrifice. Again, I'm going to be following up with all of you in the coming days via phone call and email, just to go ahead and touch base. Thank you for attending and seeing if you're interested in setting up a time and or a place to discuss your interest in our programs a little bit more in depth at a time that's most convenient for you. So with that, thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Great. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.